Did I have Bell? My apologies, Mr. Speaker.
Todd Barclay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I start, I think it's a bit ironic that Mr O'Connor thinks that they're putting blame on national ministers of food safety and primary industries for not supporting this bill, given in his opening statement he said that the successive Labor ministers have never supported it. But I think that I just wanted to speak in support of this bill and acknowledge Stefan Browning for bringing this to the House, because I know there's one thing for sure. You've been a passionate supporter of this ever since I've been in Parliament, which is obviously a relatively little period of time compared to yourself. But sitting on the Primary Production Committee with you, there have been a number of opportunities through bills and through presentations that have come before the committee where you've continuously and relentlessly raised this issue with sector representatives. And actually the most meaningful one, I think, of late is in the wine country of origin labelling that our committee looked at probably about 6 or 7 months ago. And actually there were quite a few submitters to that bill that raised the issue that you're pushing here today. So I think it's a good thing. Obviously, I don't have the same level of trade background as what Stuart and other speakers in the House have got, but I think that looking at all the information around it and looking at the presenters who were before us before the wine bill about 6 or 7 months ago, who were confident that this wasn't going to be an inhibitor to our trading relationships, it gives me confidence to support this bill, Mr. Speaker, and indeed it's what gives our party confidence in supporting this bill. And one of the things that I think the Select Committee process gives an opportunity to tease out are the nuances associated with that. Obviously, there are a number of trade agreement refreshes that are going on at the moment, and new agreements, and indeed a number of existing agreements that we have with other countries. And I'm sure, and I've no doubt, given the amount of proactive sort of engagement we get from sector leads and ministry officials within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that if there are any unforeseen consequences on trading relationships as a result of this, that they certainly will be aired through the Select Committee process, which is why I think we have a high level of confidence in supporting it to the Select Committee. And there's probably not too many bills that progress through the parliamentary process and get past Select Committee stage without having some form of alteration made to them. So, I mean, obviously there are a few, as has been pointed out by some people on our side in previous speeches, that there are probably a few rough edges that will need to be ironed out, but it's no different to any other piece of legislation that goes through a Select Committee. And I know that Stefan Browning is a pragmatic member, and he will be very accommodating to the views that are put forward by ministry officials and other sector representatives along those lines, Mr. Speaker, as he always is. But I want to pick up on a point that Damien O'Connor raised as well in his opening statements, and that is around the need and indeed the requirement and actually the realistic nature of consumers in the 21st century being more curious and being more informed and requiring more information about the produce that they are purchasing for themselves and their families. And if you look at China probably as an example, at an international level, the high degree of curiosity and rigour that they put around doing their due diligence on products that they're feeding their children through infant formula. And I think that there is certainly an obligation on consumers to remain, vigilance not the right word, but I suppose it's a good way to describe just always not just sort of resting on your laurels when you're purchasing products from New Zealand, but also other countries. Just making sure that you are aware of the produce and that goes into making those products, Mr. Speaker. And I think one of the things that this bill does is it doesn't take away from that, and it doesn't put country of origin labelling into the food safety category. But what it does is it does just reinforce their view that consumers are curious and they're inherently more interested in what goes into making up their products. And on that level, Mr. Speaker, I think that Stefan's raised obviously something that is demanded by consumers in this day and age. So it's a real pleasure to be able to support it, and I want to congratulate Stefan, because I know this is one of a handful of issues that you've been quite passionate about over your time in Parliament, and no doubt you'll be the Indian roundup's probably not going to be featured in this, but nevertheless, I have no hesitation that it'll be raised in primary production tomorrow Mr Speaker, but just want to congratulate you on getting the bill to this point, Mr Speaker. Thank you.
Speaker.
Michael Wood.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Labour Party is very